All right, let's do best bets for game 6 between the Pacers and the Knicks. We'll go around and we'll give our bets, and then we will talk about them. I will start. Pacers minus 3.5. Pacers minus 6.5. Pacers minus 9.5. Pacers minus 12.5. I'm also going to bet that TJ McConnell over on the points and assists. I really like that prop. I'm going to bet that too. Gilles Gallant, what do you like in this one?
Well, before I say, why not go all the way? Why not go like a minus 19.5? Like I talked about this before last preview where I was saying that they're kind of diet thunder or poor man's thunder with the way that they force turnovers and fast break points. Like if it's going to be that much of a blowout, I'm just saying, might as well just really plant their flag and go all in. But that being said, I'm with you on that I do think the Pacers are going to win. I think Aaron Nesmith is going to have a big game in this. So I'm going to take over 16.5 points, rebounds, and assists. And I'm also going to take Josh Hart, a bet that I won in the last show, over 13.5 rebounds and assists. I'm seeing that right now at plus odds.
Oh, Josh Hart in this series. We thought he was going to have such a marvelous, amazing, incredible series. And he's managed to be pretty good in terms of the props over game by game, but just hasn't been like the absolute demon that I think we thought, which probably has put some value on the over here. Bryan Fonseca, what do you like?
Pacers minus half a point first quarter. Pacers minus 1.5 points in the first half. And Tyrese Halliburton over 30.5 points. Plus.
Run it up.
Yeah. Also, I am sprinkling on an alt of Pacers minus 9.5. Plus.
Are you only taking the alt and not the standard 3.5?
I have a future on them to win the East from rounds earlier. So
hat tip to Jim Turvey on that.
So it just doesn't. I don't need it, you know.
Fair.
I'm fearing the worst as we're talking about it. Like I'm getting anxiety, legitimately.
Anxiety. Yeah, I understand. I feel it too. So here's the thing. I do this all the time where I'm like, I'm probably wrong. Like I'm probably gonna be like, that's how I feel. One of the things that makes me good at this job, hosting, right? Not making the bets, but hosting, is that if you literally were like,
give yourself more credit.
If you were literally like, give me the argument for X, I can do it. Because I think in all of these different, like I can build you a game script for any outcome here. Like if you were like, I need a script where the Knicks win by 20. Sure, it's a repeat of game 5. They've actually have figured something out. They cannot stop Karl from getting to the rack. He scores like 30 with 15 rebounds. The Pacers offense dries up. They don't hit shot. Like I could do it, right? And I don't really take very strong positions. Usually I'm even with the Matt Mitchell rule, I'm pretty timid about like, hey, you got to be like, I'm like, well, I don't know, man, like anything, like this is sports, like you make or miss shots, right? Nope. I'm here. I'm in 3.5, 6.5, 9.5, 12.5. And if I'm wrong, not only do I lose, and do I lose 1.5 and 2.5, I've already lost 2.5, minus 1.5 on my series best bet, but Brandon Anderson's probably going to win because Pacers are probably going to win in 7. And Brandon gets to be right. And I'm just like, well, okay, if I'm going to be wrong, let's go wrong the entire way. Let's go as much wrong as we can possibly be. Now I am playing like lower units on the escalator here, but here's the reason why, Gilles.
Same.
Game 6. Let me back up and give you some of the broader numbers here for the trends, because I do think that they're extremely relevant. I mentioned on the pregame show, like, look, this was I wrote this up. I was like, this is a Knicks spot. Every single trend says Knicks. Everyone was like, I don't see how the Knicks are going to win a game. Like I read that multiple places and got real pushback from everybody about, come on, man, like how are the Knicks even going to win this? And I was like, because home teams win game 5, down 3-1. That's what happens. Now it goes back the other way in game 6. Teams up 3-2 after losing game 5 are 45-14 straight up, 39-19 against the spread. Jesus. How about home favorites? 25-7, 18-14 against the spread. If they win, they're 18-7 against the spread with an ATS margin of 9.7. Home teams in the conference finals up 3-2 with a chance to close are 10-4 straight up, 9-5 against the spread. This is the script. There are things that follow through from series to series to series. And if you had told me going into, let's say Nuggets Thunder, right? If you had told me going into Nuggets Thunder, the Nuggets steal game 1, which I was not on because I thought they would be tired from game 7. But if you said that, what would you have wanted? I've been like, you're probably going to have, if I think about it, you're probably going to have to bet Thunder in 7. And the reason is the Nuggets are absolutely winning game 3. They're absolutely losing game 5. They're absolutely winning game 7. They're absolutely losing game 7 on the road. Like that's the script. And like, this is just how it goes. Now, there are exceptions to this. Like 7 times this hasn't happened, right? Like there's all those numbers I just gave you are not 25-0. It's not 30-0. Now, no team has ever gotten out of the conference finals going down 0-2 at home. That's 0-17. So the odds are that the Knicks don't make it out of the series, but they can absolutely win game 6. In my opinion, they will not. The adjustments and things I saw from game 5 did not convince me. That was to me, an absolute script, an absolute perfect script of, oh yeah, they pulled out a bunch of adjustments. They played much harder. The Pacers do this too. The Pacers are not like, we're going to step on your throat and kill you. And we've seen that kind of consistently and a bunch of times with them throughout these last 2 seasons, because it's exhausting playing how they play. And so if you meet them at that level, you can get the outcome like the Knicks did in game 5. The problem is trying to do it on the road in game 6 with a chance to go to the finals. The Knicks can absolutely win this game. I am not like, there's no chance. They absolutely can. They shouldn't have won the Knicks series, or they shouldn't have won the Pistons series. They did. They shouldn't have won the Celtics series. They did. It was completely reasonable. But also, Gilles, that 9.5 is really the kind of marker for me. When we kind of take a look at like how these games are scripted. If you're coming off of a loss in game 5, you're up 3-2, you are favorite and you win the game. The margin, the ATS margin is 9.4. The straight up margin is 14.3. You're absolutely right that this could be a 20-point blowout. Okay. You're absolutely right. It could be. I do not like getting up into the 19s and 20s. A comfortable Pacers win is 15 and we cover. So that is why I scripted this at 3.5, 6.5, 9.5, 12.5.
Well, it's a proper scale. I think the only thing that I was thinking of too, I was looking it up and trying to find it while you were talking. It was like, who's the ref crew for this game? Because right now I don't think they've announced it yet. And if I see Scott Foster, I'm going to be very worried for you.
Yeah.
That's all I have to say.
Absolutely. If it's Scott Foster, I'm just going to be like, well, there goes 4 units. Goodbye.
Although statistically the extender thing is a little bit overblown as it pertains to Scott Foster.
So. Don't ruin the narrative.
Of course, it's more just the hint of doubt. That's really, it's just I don't like having that seed.
It could be Tony Brothers and Scott Foster's game 7. We don't know.
Okay, I'm done talking for a while. Let's go to Bryan Fonseca. You want first quarter, first half. The trends on the Pacers have been very good in the first half, which is why I took them foolishly in game 6. I did not, or game 5, did not think that through. Gilles Gallant was right to be like, why? Why do you like them at this spot in game 6?
You mentioned that they don't really step on your throat. I feel like they kind of have in the postseason. If you look at how they respond typically to losses, we've already seen it in this series, but going back to Milwaukee. So Milwaukee was a little bit different because they were on the road in game 4, but Milwaukee comes out, they get their game 3 win at home, and then Indiana kind of smokes them in the first half. They were up by double digits at halftime, and they end up winning that game by 26. They really smoked them in the second half. Against Cleveland, we remember this one pretty vividly because it was shocking. But Cleveland got their win. It's a similar situation where the Pacers win the first 2 games on the road. Cleveland gets theirs in game 3. And then in game 4, the reason why I'm highlighting this is because it's after a loss, and they only lost once in each of the prior series. This is the first time Indiana's lost twice in the playoff series this season. Indiana came out and beat the shit out of Cleveland in game 4. Like, I was watching that from a restaurant, and I was watching like on the board or whatever, and I'm like, yo, they're not missing shit. They had 80 points in the first half. Cleveland didn't even break 40. It was really, really bad. They made all their adjustments. The other thing, and we haven't mentioned this person, but I think one of the key elements as to why this could work in this spot is Rick Carlisle. Because Rick Carlisle really, it felt like, Matt, to me, he held back. Like, he's like, I'm going to get a sense of how this game is going to go. I'm going to see how my guys come out early, and I'm going to hold some cards unless it's close and we could actually take this one. Coaches think that way sometimes. And again, if you look at the rotations, the entire Knicks starting 5, other than Mitchell Robinson, played 34-plus minutes. Josh Hart also played 34-plus minutes. And if you notice, the Pacers packed it in a couple minutes earlier. Tom Thibodeau, for whatever reason, left in his starters longer. In particular, left in Josh Hart and OG Anunoby into like the last minute of the game, which is pretty surprising. And on top of that, the Pacers, if you look at their minutes distribution, it was a lot more like just whoever was playing. They had 2 guys play 30-plus minutes. Historically, like, this is the spot for the underdog in the series if they're up 3-2 to win this. I think Indy's going to make a lot of adjustments. They're great in responding to these losses, as we just posted that comment from Adrian. Like, they cover in first quarters and first halves and full games after these losses in this postseason run. We've only seen this happen once this series so far, but I think they held back a lot. Not purposely. I think the Knicks just went and got it. Kind of like how Minnesota went and got the game that they needed against Oklahoma City in game 3. But I think Indiana's going to have a better response in game 6.
I did look this up because I was curious. Rick Carlisle with the Mavericks and the Pacers. I did not include his Pistons or original Pacers tenure. If he's got a chance to advance, 3 series wins, and he's at home, 4-0 straight up, 2-2 against the spread. So he wins these games, and the average margin of victory in those games is 15.8 points per game. That's across, like, you can be like, yeah, but this team doesn't have Dirk and all those kind of things. And like, I don't blame you. Like, that's completely understandable to be skeptical of that particular sample, but I do think it's kind of interesting. Now,
do you have
before last night when they were on the road with a chance to advance, he was also 5-2. So now he's 5-3. So you can say, hey, trend's busting. But to me, this is an even better spot here for, I think, if you want to put your money on Tibbs, if you think that Tibbs has figured it out and Tibbs is going to solve this, you can express that opinion in the market. And I don't blame you. It's okay to have that opinion. It's okay to, like, you get buying low. I always say this, buying low is never comfortable. But do you really want to bet on Tibbs versus Carlisle in this game? Like, I can't get there. Gilles Gallant, talk to me about, let's see the Josh Hart one first. I love hearing you talk about Josh Hart. Talk to me about Josh Hart.
All right. So last night's pregame show, I gave that out over 13.5 rebounds and assists. I kind of broke down why the 13.5 is the key number, because not to go full into what I explained yesterday, but just 14.5 has kind of been that median for him. So he's cleared it in a couple of games in this series, 3 of 5 games technically in this series, but the rebound chances remain. There's 17.5 rebound chances per game. He finished with almost 20 in game 5. One of the big hangups coming into game 5 as well was the fact that his potential assists dropped off because he only had 4 in game 4. I think that contributed to why that line moved down. Well, we saw jump back up to 11 in game 5. And I think he could have had more assists. I saw at least 4 open looks for 3-point shooters like Miles McBride, like that should have gone in, but that's variance for you. But 13.5 again is the key number here, because I think as well, another reason why I like Josh Hart is his role on the team, I think, is pretty pronounced, regardless if he's starting or he's coming from the bench. We see that he comes in. It was the 5-minute mark of the first quarter in game 5, but that's typically that 6-minute mark. He'll come in, stays right until halftime. He did that in the second half as well. And that was one of the reasons why you were talking about, Brian, about some of those garbage minutes. That's kind of half the reason why I was able to get to the over there, because entering the fourth quarter, he had 8 rebounds and 2 assists, ended up getting a couple more assists. And
I needed that too.
Rebounds. But that's something that's really predictable about Tibbs, is that I can't say for certain what Towns' minute median is going to be. I can say for certain I know what Josh Hart's is, and it's only like 34 minutes is the floor of what you're going to get from a Josh Hart performance. So if you're going to get closer to 40 minutes, especially in a game where I think the Pacers have more pressure on them to win than the Knicks, I think Josh Hart is going to end up playing a little bit more. I think we might even see less of Mitch Robinson as this game goes on. So Josh Hart over 13.5 rebounds and assists. I'm seeing it as well at plus odds, which is another reason why I wanted to go back to it, because if it's starting to shade closer to minus 140, minus 145, like it was at the beginning of the series when we were at 14.5, then I kind of want to back away from it. But at 13.5 with plus odds, that's the kind of bet you want to make in this game.
Okay, so this is price sensitive. I mean, everything's gonna be price sensitive for you, but this one in particular is price sensitive given the history of the line in this one. And if it stays 13.5, but it hits minus 140, do you still recommend?
Well, I don't think it's going to move that far, because, I mean, unless he gets announced that he's in the starting lineup, because another thing too is that what you could do, and this happened last night with the 13.5, once the starting lineup came out, the odds shifted closer to the under. So you could actually probably get a little bit better odds if you wanted to wait a little bit, if you think that Josh Hart isn't going to start in this game. But I also would just say, yes, price sensitivity is always key, especially when it comes to these markets, because I was saying, like, a lot of the time these lines are super sharp, the 13.5, 14.5, whatever the line is. It's the odds on the either side is the kind of where you're able to make your hay. So again, Josh Hart, that line is key of 13.5. I don't assume it's going to move to 14.5, even just off of the game 5 performance. So I think you can grab it now, feel good at the plus odds, considering I have it around minus 125 is expected and fair odds. So you're getting a little bit of value on that front. But I think, again, if you're kind of hesitant on it, you want to see if he's going to be in the starting lineup. If he gets announced that he's going to be coming from the bench, you might even get better odds around like plus 110, plus 115.
Smart cap by Gilles Gallant. Let's go back to Bryan Fonseca, Tyrese Halliburton over 30.5 points and assists. I don't know how you can bet this, Brian. He's the worst player ever and not a superstar and a fraud because he had a bad game in game 5.
You want to talk about a dude who responds to bad performances in the playoffs. Like he's done this before. He's had these performances where he has a single digit amount of points and everybody's like, yo, what's going on? The Pacers were at times too isolation heavy, and the Knicks did a really good job defensively. Like, I want to give the Knicks credit. They played their best game of the series by far. They played their best 48 minutes of the series by far. Defensively, they continued to restrict Indiana from getting the looks that they wanted, and Indiana constantly had the ball with 6, 5, 4 seconds left in the shot clock and have to put up a grenade. That all works against what the Pacers want to do. Now, good luck doing that again against his team, because Rick Carlisle is going to have them focused, as we said, and I think Tyrese Halliburton is going to lead them. Tyrese Halliburton in this series, he has 2 games of just straight up overs on this with the points alone. You know what I mean? Like, and both of those were like galvanizing efforts. The first one was as an underdog in game 1, where obviously they had the historic comeback and he powered that. He had 31 and 11. And then in game 4, which is the only other time he's gone over this in the series, he had the famous, 32, 15, 12 with no turnovers. And that was in response to the loss that they suffered, and really a game that they gave away in game 3. Karl-Anthony Towns took it from them in the 4th quarter. I like Tyrese Halliburton a lot in this bounce back spot, assuming that the script is how we think it'll be, assuming that Indiana responds the way that they should, and assuming that they'll have their pulse on the game, because the Knicks, this is the first time that they control tempo. Like, that was a big thing for me in the last game. I haven't looked at the pace numbers. I'm pretty sure it was the slowest pace game of the series, or at least in the bottom 2, because the Knicks were controlling a lot of it. At the end, they tried to run with Indy or run at Indy's pace, which is kind of silly. But they weren't doing a good job of like holding the lead, and they tried to give it away at a couple different times. Indy couldn't muster up the run. But Indiana here with Tyrese Halliburton, they play their style, and this goes the way that we think this should be an over. Tyrese Halliburton tends to come through at times in these moments. Against Cleveland in the game that I mentioned earlier, like, they were whooping Cleveland so bad he didn't have to, and that's probably my only concern here. Is like, if this gets away from the Knicks in that way, then maybe Tyrese doesn't have to get the 30.5 points plus assists. But I don't think it'll get that out of control, but who knows?
So I did the quick math. Last 2 playoffs, coming off of a loss, he averaged 30.2 points and assists after a loss. This postseason, he has averaged 31.7. So you're just over this line. And this is a trip to the finals on the line. Mm-hmm. And like, I do think that the minutes is the key here, like you mentioned, is
he went the potentials. Right. And he went over in the Milwaukee series after the loss. He went under in the Cleveland game, but that's because they were winning they doubled up Cleveland in the first half. He didn't need to play. And then he went over in this series. So
what were you saying about the potentials, T-Dog?
Well, I mean, even last night, like he had 17 potentials in that game, only finished with 6 assists. That's way below his assist conversion rate. And so if we're getting double-digit assists with Hallie, obviously the 3-point attempts are there. There's a reason why his 3-point line is also the highest in the game at 3.5. Nobody else has a 3.5. Only Brunson with a 2.5, and OG and Anunoby. So if we're getting 3+ threes, 10+ assists, which again is right around what his metrics are, his median is, and what the betting markets are, 30.5 doesn't seem too crazy, especially when, as Brian mentioned, coming off the loss, but also just the fact that I talk about this with PNR and stat combos. There's potential that he could go over this just with points. So if he's able to do that, then you feel pretty good being able to include the assist mark, which again, he is second to none in this playoffs as far as assist conversion goes.
I have not commented enough on how good a cap that is by you, either way, of saying that on these points, rebounds, assists, you want one.
Well, it's not like I'm reinventing the wheel. No, I know what you mean, but it's just that's kind of something that if you're really going into that kind of market, there has to be some precedent, but also just upside and potential, right? And that's part of the reason why we like Josh Hart rebounds and assists, because there is the potential, and he has done it, that he could have 14 rebounds just on that alone, right? So I think that's the main thing if we're looking at those stat combos, is that there has to be that upside. And I think Bryan already broke it down that that Tyrese Haliburton is one of those few players that does.
You may not be reinventing the wheel, but as somebody who is terrible at betting props, I appreciate the insight. Gilles Gallant, don't be modest. This is not a show for that. Can't. Although I will say we probably should be modest, because Brandon's going to be on a lot of the episodes coming up, so we probably need to be a little bit more modest to balance out the influx of Brandon coming on. Okay, let's go to Aaron Nesmith over 16.5 PRA. Gilles,
for sure, yeah. And Bryan kind of mentioned this when talking about Rick Carlisle as a coach. I don't want to go too far into the coaching handicap, but I do think it's worth noting that I think he had every intention of expanding the rotation for this game, knowing they have game 6 at home. I don't think the ankle injury is as bad as he's letting on, considering he was able to play pretty much through game 4. Now, that could have been the lidocaine cap that we talked about with Michael Porter Jr., where it's good for one game and not good for the next, but I'm not going that far. But again, I think, again, the more the pressure is on the Pacers in this game, they do not want to go back game 7 in New York. And I think they need him back ASAP, because he's been the most successful defender of Jalen Brunson. The on-off splits of when he's on the floor and what Jalen Brunson's production has been directly correlated with Aaron Nesmith. And I think as well, obviously you look at game 5, you see he only played 15 minutes. He still put up 8 shots at 15 minutes. It's not like he was being shy. They just were like, okay, you twisted your ankle a little bit on that Mitch Robb pick and roll trying to defend Brunson. It didn't look as bad. He even said in post-game pressers that he's fine. He could play right now. Obviously, that's player speak. But again, I'm going to take his word for it on this one, especially because Rick Carlisle kind of echoed that sentiment. But I think given the stakes, we're going to see a lot more minutes of the starters, which is why I like the Tyrese Haliburton handicap, because I think he's going to have to play like 38 minutes in this game. You can't just do we'll let TJ McConnell play, 20 minutes and Haliburton play 32 and try to have that balanced lineup. I think they have to lean more into their starters. And then as for just Nesmith stats, like if he actually plays 30 plus minutes, which I do expect, I think we're good, because in the 3 games in this series, when he did play 30 plus minutes, cleared this. Obviously, that first game was the overtime game, but still counts. And 8.6 rebound chances per game. Another thing too, Matt, I talked about this with the PRA. Right now for Aaron Nesmith markets, points rebound line is 16.5 with a little shade to the over. Whereas the points, rebounds, and assists line is also 16.5 with a little shade to the over. So the fact that I could throw in assists on this as well, just to be able to add to that count, I think that only helps. So take the PRA version of this instead of just the points and rebounds. I know he's only had 2 assists in the series, but again, getting that additional support on that market. And then, of course, finally, they just need his scoring. I mean, he's close to 50% from the field. He's over 50% from 3-point. A lot of his 3-point props, the 1.5 is completely steamed. I'm seeing like minus 175 at some spots right now for him to have at least 2 or more 3-pointers. So that's only going to contribute to that PRA line. So again, Aaron Nesmith, I don't want to put my conspiracy hat on too much, but I would just say I think they are saving him for this game.
Maurice Walker, who I'm pretty sure is a Knicks fan, he's been in our comments before, says, if you look at him, he can't jump off that foot. The ankle bad. I will tell you that I do not have a guaranteed lidocaine cap for this one like I did MPJ. I will tell you that the performance of game 4 versus game 5 tells me that he probably did get a numbing injection, an anti-inflammatory, probably before game 4. They probably took off game 5. He probably gets it again in game 6. I would not be surprised if it's like, wow, Aaron Nesmith looks a lot better. As I said before,
dunking in traffic on Towns or something. Like
drugs are amazing. I will continue to say that. That's the message of the show in the postseason. Drugs are amazing.
Also, just one thing I want to throw in, because Joe mentioned it. I don't think the pressure is on the Pacers here. I know that's a conversation that a lot of people are having, And everyone's saying, like, you don't want to see the Knicks in a home game 7. And it's like, the Pacers have 2 shots to win this series. The Knicks just have 1 to save their season. I think the pressure is not more on the Pacers than the Knicks. I think the pressure is more on the Knicks because they're down in the series. And the Pacers can win a road game 7 in New York.
Yes. Like, I was arguing about this with Joe last night. And one of my big counters is I'm like, oh man, who could imagine the Pacers going on the road to Madison Square Garden and winning a game 7? The thing they did last year. Oh, but all the injuries. I'm just, fine, but
they did it twice in this series too.
The Pacers are not like, oh man, we gotta play the Knicks in the Garden. Oh, Ben Stiller might say something mean to me. Like, come on now. Again, they can win this series. Like, I've thought about it. I've looked at the numbers and been like, do I want to bet Knicks in 7 here? Like, am I showing value on that at this point?
Sure.
But I just think that narrative of the pressure thing is a little overblown. I don't even think that's bettable.
Overrated. If they don't get to the finals, Tyrese Haliburton is clearly overrated. I'll put that out there right now. I'll say that right with the fiddle.
Yeah, that's the fiddle take. Is that right there? Fiddle is salivate. There, it's real. Here's the funniest part: is the Bucks and Cavs fans are like salivating at the opportunity. Like, all they want is for Tyrese Haliburton not to be as good as he was in the first 2 rounds. Like, they are just desperate. He can't be that good. Okay. Let's do open run before we do the parlay. And we got some comments here. David Martell says Siakam under 6.5 boards, hasn't hit 7 in the series. He's only averaging 10.2 chances. Gilles, you're nodding your head.
Yeah, I mean, usually when I was playing Siakam, I was more, again, on the assist rebounds front. And usually I was looking at that 9.5 mark, and he ended up clearing that in game 5. But that rebound mark has been just slow. The potentials of assists are still there, but that potential rebounds or rebound chances has slowly been trickling down as the series has gone on. So I think David's spot on.
Mo Walker likes Josh Hart 3 -150, letting him shoot it. And Josh Hart 3 along with OG over 15.5 points. I can't really get a feel for where OG in this series. I thought OG was in a really good favorable matchup point. He just doesn't get the ball enough because it's very hard. Because here's the thing. OG's a really great defender, but in order for him to get touches, he's going to have to literally steal the ball from his own teammate because Jalen Brunson's just going to dribble the canary out of the ball. So unless he can steal it from his own teammate, I don't know if OG's going to get the touches to go over. You kind of nod your head at the Josh Hart 3 though, Brian.
Yeah, I'll say this about OG. He is over in 4 or 5 this series. The only under was last game where he had the attempts, and that's really the key. It's like he was 3 for 14, but he got the 14. Could the 3 be a 6 instead? And a lot of his shots are going to come from 3, especially from the corners. Like, that's the one shot that the Knicks can get. Not the one shot, but it's one of the shots that the Knicks can get consistently is OG corner 3. And they'll leave him open there. So I would almost look at his 3s depending on what it is, but I could see him getting the over on points if he just hits his shots. But, the last couple of games, he's 1 for 7 from 3 each game. He's getting the attempts, but overall, it's been a little bit shaky, and we'll see. As far as Josh Hart, yeah, I mean, one of the ways to scheme against the Knicks that defenses have done is, hey, if Josh Hart is at the 3-point line, let him shoot. Because he's very good at driving and kicking and finding an open shooter. I mean, this is why Gilles, for example, likes the rebounds and assists. The assists are a good part of that. And you would expect that he gets 4, 5, 6. He hasn't had that often in this series. The assists have actually been shaky in this series, but the rebounds are there. As far as Josh Hart, those shooting 3s, he only took 2 last game and the game before and the game before. And he didn't take any of the game before that. But he has made 1 in 2 of the 5 in this series. He's not getting up a ton, but that's one of the things that, and this could be an adjustment that Carlisle makes, is like, yo, really dare him to shoot the 3 because Josh Hart is still finding ways to drive and kick. He's rejecting the open 3-point look at times too, which is a little worrisome, but I could see him making a 3 here because if he only takes 2 again, I don't know. I'd be a little worried.
Depends on when he hits them too, right, Brian? Like if he hits one, like as soon as he comes in and like off of like a Jalen Brunson drive and kick, and then he hits that first 3, if anything, I feel like that only helps like a rebound and assist prop because now there's going to be just in their mind, we got to go play up on him. And then he's able to drive around them and maybe get some potential assists out of that. But yeah, I think the thing too right now is more the price that I don't love with the Josh Hart 3
it's
point.
too juiced for that.
Well, it's minus 150, and you could easily go with the he's due handicap, which again, I don't really know if I can disagree with you at this point because I know that he's going to get at least 1 or 2 3-point attempts. I was just kind of hoping that maybe I could get closer to like minus 125, maybe minus 130 for 1+ 3-pointer. At minus 150, I feel it's a little priced out at that stage. But then also on the flip side, don't really feel good about taking the under as well, unless you're getting, plus 180 or more.
Mo also likes here Mitch Robinson over 5.5 points and assists. I was surprised that Mitch has actually been going over his points prop pretty consistently, which I guess shouldn't be surprising to me because it's just like 3 dunks, but
pretty efficient. It's like he gets 3 shots and he hits them. I think it's like 78% field goal percentage right now in the series for Mitch Rob.
Adrian,
he has 6 points in 4 straight games.
Yeah.
Mitchell Robinson.
Here's what we'll do. Well, no, we can't do it. It's like the Jalen Williams thing where you're like over 4,
right?
Over 4.5 assists, under 5.5 assists.
And the shooting is fun. It's like 2 for 3, 3 for 4, 2 for 3, 3 for 3.
Hey, I like
they're all inside the paint.
Like I love a guy that understands. My job is to catch the ball, dunk the ball. That's it. That's all I do. I love guys that understand their role. Adrian says, any upside to Jalen Brunson points props with the assumption that the Pacers play much better on offense and Tibbs goes full Tibbs and plays Brunson 40+ minutes for the first time this series. So we debated about this quite a bit with the underdog. And Brian likes Brunson because he covers the Knicks and he knows that like how the Knicks are going to attack this and like what Brunson's done. And I don't think, Gilles, that you disliked it. I think it was more you were like, how are we going to take a Brunson over prop when we're saying that the Pacers are going to win this game and have a beatdown? And so,
also just a bit of price sensitivity as well with that line at 31.5. That's the thing that kind of concerns me, because then again, if you look at the box scores, you could easily take data away from that and say like, look, he got in foul trouble one game. He finished with 31 points. The margin for error is just so thin considering what he's been asked to do offensively in this series. So I think if you're going to take an over, you're probably thinking he's probably going to go over on his threes as well, but that's the other thing too, is that I've seen him have 30-point games like game 4 and then go 2 for 6 from 3 points. So I think my thing right now is we talked about it as a counter where maybe we look at like the free throws and the free throws made for Brunson, where if he's going to be getting to the line a lot, then that would correlate to the 30 points. I think that would probably be I'd feel a little more comfortable on that front as opposed to taking over 31.5 when essentially that line is about as sharp as it's going to get. There's a reason why that line is that high because he can get to there, but 31 points in a closeout game where, I don't know, maybe it gets a little tight at the end, and Neesmith playing more and defending him, maybe that's just something it makes me uneasy to feel good about Brunson points, at least 31.5. If it was like over 29.5, where you can get 30 points at the minus 115 on each side, let's do it. But 31.5, that's when we start these points. You have to start thinking about the value of the odds and the value that comes with that. And that's something that just at 31.5, that's like the cutoff where you're not really getting a ton of value on taking the over.
I just want to say, I think Gilles and Brian have done an amazing job today. This has been a really good episode. Every single take you guys have had has been great today.
Can I chime in on the Brunson piece?
Yes.
Yeah. Retort.
What I would say is 31.5, I'm not playing. I'd rather take 30 plus, which is what I did
exactly.
last game.
Where you could probably get it a little shaded, but you might have to pay a little bit of a premium, maybe minus 140. But yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
My concern is it depends on what you think, Adrian. Like if you think the Knicks are going to win this game, how do they do that without? I mean, they did it in game 3, but you would think that Brunson would be the guy to step up. And in these big spots, like he's the Knick that I feel most comfortable backing for reasons that are obvious. Josh Hart is actually second on that list because of the rebounds from a prop standpoint, not from a I'm not going to let guys backdoor cut and get layup standpoint, because Josh Hart's been struggling with that all series. Jalen Brunson, though, like with the points, there's a script either way where if the Knicks win, he gets 30. And if the Knicks lose, he can get 30, because there's a world where he's the only one that has it going. It's one of those games where it's like Brunson can get his and everyone else is sort of up and down. and you look up and the Pacers win by like 10, 15 points, as we've been talking about being a possibility in this game. And I think with that in mind, 31.5 is a little high. I think I'd rather personally just, as Jill said, pay a little bit of a premium and just take the 30 plus, which he's done 4 times in this series, and which it feels like he tends to do in these type of spots. So, but if you think the Pacers are going to,
it's not quite Shea Gilgeous-Alexander where it's almost like 30 guaranteed every time,
Right.
but it's more just about the price sensitivity on wanting to get, again, Brunson win or lose game script. We could still see him getting 30, but even like, I think back to like what's the game that was probably the furthest apart as far as discrepancy was game 5, where the Pacers win 130 to 121, and Brunson plays 37 minutes. Didn't really do much in the second half, finished with 31. And that would drive me friggin' crazy if I had the over 31.5, especially when you watch that first half, like where he was very assertive. And in the last 2 games, I would say that's the other thing too, is that you might know pretty quickly if whether or not this Brunson prop is going to hit, because over the last 3 games, very aggressive in the first quarter to try to get his shots up. So that might give you a little more cushion. But again, that's something that maybe you're looking at, maybe a Brunson first quarter points prop, maybe given how aggressive he's been over the last 3 games to start the game.
One more thing before you hit the parlay. Brian, just to put the fear of God in you one more time. We are currently tracking in our Action Pro subscription, 79% of the tickets are on the Indiana Pacers. 77% of the money is on the Indiana Pacers. This line has moved to 3.5 from 4. We were tracking sharp action on the New York Knicks. I will guarantee you Fiddle's going to be on the Knicks. I will guarantee you Michael Fiddle is going to be on
but
the
not
Knicks.
The money line. It'll be plus 4.
No, it won't be.
No, he wants the directional line. Like that's what he wants.
Well, not only does he want the directional line, but it like this isn't actually what he wants to do. It's just like how it feels to a lot of us is like never. If you have an opportunity to pay juice, especially a lot of it, don't threaten Michael Fiddle with a good time. Like that is where that dude lives. 68% of the tickets are on Pacers money line. 72% of the 68% of the tickets, 72% of the money. No sharp action tracked on the money line so far in our pro subscriptions. We'll talk about that on pregame on Saturday. We will have pregame Saturday at 6:30 Eastern and postgame to either wrap up the series or talk about Game 7. And someone else will have to do that show because if the Knicks force a Game 7, I will be just underwater. I will be a skeleton floating in the water, like in the swimming pool meme. Is
not quite homeless, but feeling like you want to just live anywhere else.
Yes, live in a van down by the river. Rudy Cisneros says, "All in on the Knicks." Okay,
we need more people to be all in on the Knicks other than Knicks fans, so I could feel better.
Is that a Joe Delara burner?
Our parlay for Game 6, the over 219. Here's one. In this postseason, when the Pacers have won, the over is 8-3, and the over-under margin is +10. It goes 10 points over in those games. When the game goes over and they win, the over-under margin is 16.8. So that's fun. I'll be messing with some alts for the overs too. Tyrese Haliburton over 30.5 points and assists. Fonseca gave us that one. Aaron Nesmith over 16.5 points, rebounds, and assists. Gilles Gallant gave us that one. Indiana Pacers first half. Indiana Pacers full game. What I did not pay attention to enough, Gilles, in Game 5 was the record of, the Pacers win the first half all these times. Do you know why? Because they win the game. And if you think that they're not going to win the game, you should just take the other side like a normal human being. So that was my bad. We're on Pacers full game, halftime, full game. Nesmith over 16.5 PRA, Haliburton 30.5 points and assists, and the over 219. That gives us at one book in the market. There are actually better ones than this, but at one book in the market, +699. Appreciate you guys being with us. My thanks to Gilles Gallant at GDog5000 and Bryan Fonseca for joining me on today's episode. We'll be back on pregame on Saturday night, 6:30 Eastern. My thanks to David Payne, our producer. We'll see you guys again next time. Till then, let's get buckets.